afternoon, and I'd like to welcome you to Tuesday, November 7th, 3 p.m. School Board Workshop meeting. At this time, please rise for a moment of silence and the playing of the National Anthem. Thank you. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call.
Will Furry present.
Christy Chung.
Cheryl Massaro.
LaShaka Moore.
Okay. We'll be going down now to, actually, moving on to page 2 here. Resources and supports. Well, first, are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
No, as you are doing so, Madam Chair, sections 2 through 6 will continue on to the board meeting
Correct.
on the 28th of November.
That's correct. So we are now on to public comment. We have public comment.
Yes, ma'am. You do?
We do. All the stuff before that, we actually address at the next meeting, at our night meeting. So that's how quick it comes.
Wow.
Yes,
that's
ma'am, you
good.
do. And it's Mr. Eric Josie, and he's here to speak about the Carver Community Center ILA report. Mr. Josie,
Yes.
Welcome.
Got it. Well, sure.
you may have a seat.
So you caught me off guard. I was prepared for the middle of the meeting. So,
Came faster than you thought?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you for this opportunity. Okay, I got it right here. My name is Eric Josie. I am on the committee in regards to the Carver Center Community Center, or in regards to the Community Center and Carver Gym issue and doing the ILA and amending the new ILA. So that's who I am. I'm on the committee. I represent the community. I'm here along with Ms. Daisy Henry. The reason why I'm here, and I sent everybody email this morning, and you originally along with Ms. Moore, in regards to the legal issue that has arisen. And it's very clear. At our last meeting, we discussed, along with the county attorney, in regards to the issue, in regards to the authority of the dual ILA, as far as the PAL in the ILA agreement, okay? And yes, the county, and he said by a proprietary authority and other issues in regards to the authority of the county, I do understand that, but that's only for traditional means of a contract. It's not for ILA. ILA is an act and has a very specific public purpose, not to introduce a PAL into a community standard gym. So I explained it to the county attorney, and he drew back county section 12501, which expresses proprietary authority of the county. That does not supersede the act that's been created by the legislative authority of 16301. Again, legislative authority by the state and the act of 16301, 7B, A, and B prohibits that. So in other words, it does not supersede that authority. And so the purpose I'm bringing about, this is exactly what a issue going before the Attorney General is for, and getting their opinion. It's called advisory opinion, okay? It doesn't seem like the county doesn't want to relent. This is a waste of time. They haven't put it on paper. I asked them at the meeting to put it on paper, to refuse to do so. We have an issue of whether the county could supersede the state authority, the legislative authority, the special act that was created in 179 and 17301. And 7A and B prohibits the sheriff office and the PAL, well, not the sheriff office, because that's a public entity. I'm talking about the PAL trying to bind through the sheriff office to enter into an ILA agreement. I researched heavily. There is no other such thing, no other kind of agreement where the PAL has entered a ILA in the state of Florida ever in history, nor had we produced one. So I implore this board to demand a advisory opinion of the Attorney General before entering or agreeing to any ILA agreement, okay? You are the primary party as well as the county. And now the sheriff wants to enter with the PAL. The ILA is appropriate. Again, they do have the authority to enter a traditional agreement. They have authority to enter a lease agreement or any other kind of agreement, which is the traditional PAL type of agreement. They do not have the authority, the PAL, to enter in an ILA agreement. So,
all right, I've got to end you there. But I will say that, first of all, for people that are wondering, they're talking about the Police Athletic League. When you hear PAL, it's the Police Athletic League, and that's what he's referring to. We can't respond, but that has been heard, so I'm sure, and I've sent the information to our attorney too, to take a look at it to see.
I appreciate that.
Because the interlocal agreement working group will have to address that.
Thank you. That's my, just thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
That is the only public comment that has
Miss
been
Daisy,
signed
did you
in,
sign
but
up
Miss
for
Daisy
public
wants to
comment?
come forward.
I'm always late.
That's okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair. I still have a lot of concerns, and like I said, I addressed it before the county yesterday, and I asked a question about ILA, and I didn't get any response. And I'm saying that we as a community, and the way they're addressing a lot of things, we are excluded as a community. And I asked them about for the funders, and for years that I told them about the in-kind service. I said, if all the volunteers were to get paid for whatever, how much money do y'all have to spend? So as taxpayers and stuff, we are concerned about our livelihood as substantial to the Carver Gym. I don't have anything against the PAL, but the thing is, I'm concerned about our children. And they saying one thing, and I've seen so many times they lie about different things, and we don't want our children look on the outside looking in. So think carefully before you make a decision on what's right and what's wrong, because if the foundation is based on lies, it's not going to stand. So we got to make sure that we can sleep at night and get up in the morning with a clear conscience that you did the right thing by your sisters and your brothers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Nobody signed up? Okay, all right. Moving off then from public comment, we're going to resources and support. 901, request board approval for Imagine School financials. Ms. Wormack is coming to the table to help us with
Good
this.
afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, and Superintendent Moore. I'm here to answer any questions you have on resources and support consent.
All right. Does anybody have any questions on 901, Imagine School Charter financials? Seeing none, we'll go to 902. Request board approval for purchases over $10,000. We good?
Hold on, there was one I was
Ms.
looking
Chong.
at, there was one I was looking at yesterday, let me see if I can find it. What is chiller replacement? That's all.
That it,
Oh, that's part of the HVAC.
yeah, the HVAC.
Okay.
Is that good? Do you have anything else? You're good?
Just AC.
Dan,
That's fine.
okay.
That's it?
All right, then moving off of 902, going to 903, request board approval of vendor payments. Anything jump out at anybody?
Yeah, I'm fine there.
Everybody's good? All right, deletion of inventory, 904. This is one of the smallest lists I've seen in a long time, but that's, I guess, good. We're getting rid of our old things, retiring them. All right, 905, request board approval of finance budget amendments.
Nothing from me.
All right, I'm not hearing anything. 906, request board approval of professional development travel. Good. Lots of travel, good to see people out there. It's good to happen. All right, 907, district approval for district financial statements. Anything to comment on that,
Yes.
Patty?
At a previous board meeting, one of the board members asked for an update on the financial status of the school district. So I just wanted to give a quick update on that.
Excuse me for a second. Can somebody get that door? Because we're hearing. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Appreciate it.
This was with regard to the fraud that happened last month.
Okay.
So I'm just going to talk about just the funds in general. The vendor where the fraud occurred, it is a capital expense. It's not a general fund. So that would come out of the capital dollars. Last year we did end our 1.5 mil with $19 million in fund balance. We do have several projects that we are doing this year. There's several million of that do go out to get transferred to our general fund for things that are allowed by state statute. And our impact fees, which is currently the project at the high school for the expansion, ended with a fund balance of $40 million, aside from the Matanzas expansion that also pays for debts, for a portion of debt services. So for our general fund, which is our operating fund, which is the one that we focus heavily on, we ended with an overall fund balance of $7.4 million. Our unrestricted is $6.3 million. This is as of June 30th. That calculates to 4.8% of our budgeted revenue. And as you know, the board policy recommends 5 to 8%. So we are right under that 5% threshold. Since July 1st, just to emphasize this, that everything that is not budgeted for, as of July 1st, everything that's not budgeted for is a dollar for dollar hit to our fund balance. So just to give you some insight as to what we are already dealing with, since July 1st, there have been over 40 new paras added to our school district. The vast majority of that is from students coming into our county, whether it's from other counties or from out of state. 40 new paras totals $1.6 million. Now, some of those are one-to-ones, the other are classrooms. So theoretically, for the one-to-one paras, we should be getting funding for that. It doesn't cover the whole cost of a para, so some of those costs should be offset when we get our third calc. But it is a substantial increase in cost, a lot of it that's unfunded. So that is the most we've ever seen. Last year we did see quite a bit, and it's not stopping. They are continuing every single week. Just keeping in mind every new allocation, which is these paras, 40 new allocations, every new allocation, every new job description, all of that is a direct hit to our fund balance, which, as we know, is not flourishing. We want to be in a better spot. All school districts do. So the other piece to it is, while we are growing, we have not yet hit our projection for growth for our FTE forecasting. So I am expecting a decrease in the third calc. That can't be estimated yet. There's a lot of unknowns with the scholarships as well. So I am anticipating a decrease. We are working together with directors, principals, our superintendent, just to try to get in front of these concerns. So that is where we are with the general fund. The third calc does not come out until mid-January. So I just wanted to put that out there publicly as it was requested from one of the board members.
Just to go back to one thing on there, you said that we had 40 new paraprofessionals hired, and that equated to how much?
1.6 million.
And that was unbudgeted.
Correct. And as I mentioned, some of that will be returned to us through the FEFP for the one-to-ones that are required on the IEP if they're coded, if they fall under a certain coding based on their IEPs and based on other requirements that I am not intelligible enough to talk about, but some of it should be recouped.
So when we say some of it, what would our expectations be at this moment?
I have Dr. Halliday pulling data as to how many one-on-ones and what their actual coding is, whether it's 254 or 255. Those are the ones that we get additional funding for. So I'll have a better idea of that going forward, and I can get that information to all of you once I get that information.
Okay, and you think by our next meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yes.
And then you said that our FEFP is, you're projecting that the count will be lower. Is that what you said?
I am projecting based on what our FTE forecasting is and based on our actual enrollment, we will lose some funding because the funding is based on the projection. So what we work with DOE to project, we have come in lower. It's hard to estimate that at this point, or a really good estimate, because there's so many different factors that go into that third count. And that is known in mid to late January.
Okay. And just based on what you see right now, how would that, what would be the potential impacts of that being lower to our current
the impacts on our school district?
Yeah.
Well, what we've already talked about doing to try to account for some of this is holding on vacancies, typically vacancies that, like when a position is vacant, it's automatically posted for. So we're working with HR and the schools and departments to make sure that before they get posted, they are actually something that's needed. For the schools, what we've done the past couple years is if there's a vacancy in a teaching or an instructional position, we typically, prior to COVID, would only allow for a long-term sub to ensure that we're not overstaffed at the end of the year. And that is a cost savings as well, but it still fills the spot that is needed for that classroom. Since COVID happened and the massive shortfall of teachers started, we didn't continue that process. We hired everybody on as full-time, knowing that we were going to be short at the end of the fiscal year. Well, we are not in that situation anymore, so we are reverting back January 1 to any spot that's vacant. It will be a full-time sub with benefits, which helps us to get somebody to fill that spot since we offer it with benefits. So we are reverting back to that just to make sure that we are not overstaffed at any of our schools going forward.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Ms. John? All right, so go back to the capital. So the loss from the theft goes under capital.
It's a capital expense.
Yes, and so now we have to replace that out of capital. Are we going to be okay in the future payments of to get Matanzas finished?
Yes, the actual project has a 1.8 million contingency.
Yeah.
We're projected right now to use about 800,000. So the contingency in total might still keep us under budget. It is still unknown as to whether we're going to recoup that cost. It's still an ongoing investigation. But as we discussed this in our cabinet and with the superintendent, we feel the contingency, barring any unforeseen massive situations, would cover that within the actual budget.
And our reserve is getting much lower than we like it to be.
For general fund?
Yes, for general
It is
funds.
absolutely critical that we preserve
Yes.
every single dollar.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
Not on that.
All right, that's good. Going down now to 9.08, audited financial statements for Imagine School.
I just want to hit on a few key points here for the public. This is the audited financials for our charter school as of June 30th, 2023. If you go to page 14 of the PDF, this is their balance sheet at June 30th. As you can see at the bottom of the first column, their general fund, they are left with a $1 of fund balance. This is the same ending situation for last year and I believe the previous year. If you turn to page 27 of the PDF, note 11, if you can scroll up for me, please. This starts talking about the related party transactions between the charter school and their management company and the contract they have for their lease. Flipping over to the next page in note B, if you could scroll up, thank you, to the net due to from management company. This is a summary of where they started at the beginning of the year and where they ended up as far as how much they owe to their management company. So as you can see, they started with $327,000 due to them. The charter school made payments of $276,000, and then the management contribution, they were invoiced $947,000 more. And in order for the charter school to end up with $1, the management company had to put in $251,577. So that is, there's a clause in their contract, and I think it actually falls under our charter school contract. I believe that they have to have at least a positive fund balance. So same as last year, the management company has to put in funds to the charter school, which gets added to the amount that the charter school owes back to them, just to make sure they have a dollar fund balance. So this is a similar situation that has occurred the past couple of years.
Any questions?
Nope.
All right, then we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. All right, we're going down now to academic services. Ms. Bosserdet, early college agreement.
Good afternoon. The early college agreement is renewed annually, and it used to be an appendix to the Daytona State Collegiate High School Articulation Agreement, but it's now a standalone agreement. This changed over last year, so you saw this brought before you last February, and it will be brought before you annually in either November or December, as it is due to the state by DSC by January 1st. It's really, the intent of it is for enhancing learning opportunities for qualified high school students to participate in dual enrollment, but it is, we already have our dual enrollment articulation agreement that we have, so our plenty of students can commit to that, but this is so that we have the opportunity for this. It has a little bit of higher standards, and students for basically the early college program is a form of early admissions where students enroll in 12 or more credit hours per semester with the college while enrolling in no courses at the high school. So that's how it varies from the traditional dual enrollment agreement that we have. Do you have any questions?
Any major changes?
The only changes to the entire document is the dates.
Anybody?
She answered them.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
1102, request board approval for SAC membership list. Mr. Sabanchek.
Good afternoon, Chairman Sarah, Superintendent
Good
Moore,
afternoon.
board members. I realize I only come up to talk to you guys when I have to give you a task. So, pursuant to Florida Statute 1001.452 and School Board Policy 203, the board is charged with reviewing, monitoring, and approving the School Advisory Council membership lists. So, the School Advisory Council is one of the primary methods by which the school and stakeholders engage in a decision-making process to drive the school-wide improvement of the school. So these lists are people who are either appointed by the principal for a certain period, or they've been elected by their peers based on different groups to serve on the committee as they so choose. And it's just up to you guys to approve it.
And all of the groups are adequately represented? Yes. That there's a percentage?
There are several stipulations. One of those is that the majority cannot be employed in some manner by the Flagler School Board, and they are not. They're all under the 51%.
We're all good?
Yes.
Other questions? No. All right, that's good. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, right, University of South Florida and Flagler Schools, MOU agreement for technical assistance with our multi-tiered support system. Mr. Reeves.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Sarah, board members, Superintendent Moore. Before you today is bringing back a collaborative agreement that we have with the University of South Florida as far as an MOU to assist us in our MTSS process, or our multi-tiered support system. This agreement, unlike the others with our universities, is giving non-identifiable information of our students. So it's tracking different information, but it's not detailed as far as student information, so it doesn't violate the student privacy agreement by the state statutes. This agreement helps us to help our schools, help our students in their Tier 1 instruction, to make sure we're providing quality Tier 1 instruction for all of our students, and provides us as a guiding document to help us with that. They also work with us on our DOE monitoring for assistance with this collaborative effort.
Any questions?
Okay.
Hearing none, then we're going to go to the next, which is you two.
Yes,
Request for approval of Flagler Volunteer Services of Flagler Schools MOU agreement for literacy assistance with our
Wait,
pre-K.
okay, you skipped one,
Yeah.
1104.
Okay, 1104, Daytona State College of Flagler School enrollment.
Yes, ma'am.
Articulation agreement.
So this here is, as Ms. Foster had shared with you earlier, this is a MOU for our student privacy agreement that we did last month. We talked about Embry-Riddle University and our other organizations like IB and ACE, Cambridge ACE. So this rider is going on top of our current articulation agreement, which we already have, but makes us in compliance with the state statute, the Bill of Rights, so that we protect student data and information.
Questions? I don't hear any. So we're going to go then to 1105. Request for approval for Flagler Volunteer Services of Flagler Schools MOU agreement for literacy assistance with our pre-K through third grade students.
So you may know this as Reading Pals, but our Flagler Volunteer Services Organization is the one that runs that. So to help them be in compliance, there is an MOU for that we worked on, as well as their MOU as far as for the student privacy information. And so they'll be in compliance as well as they gather information, report back to their grant folks at DOE that they're in compliance, but it protects the student data information with our Reading Pals.
Any questions? All right, then we'll go to 1106, overnight travel consent.
For is 12 trips, and it spans into next year, into February of next year. This is the time of year you start seeing wrestling and these other activities, events, SGA traveling. It's great opportunities for our students to get out and experience new and exciting things. And so there's 10 from Matanzas High School, and this time 2 from FBC for you.
I particularly like the ROTC going to the SEC.
Every year.
Oh,
Every year.
that's so nice.
At least the last 7 years that I know of. It's
unbelievable experience.
They get on the field and they hold the flag for the national anthem. It's quite a sight.
That is very.
I need to see if they need an extra
Yeah,
chaperone.
There you go.
Chaperones.
Makes a chaperone. I'm sure Major Hall could work something
Yes,
out.
probably. Okay.
Any questions? on
Any
the trips?
questions with any of those? All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your time, Ward.
All right. 12, operational services, spot survey, Mr. Bush. Could you explain what that is to everybody so we can?
I will. That's
That'll
part
be
of.
very helpful.
And Mr. Shell.
Oh,
Yes.
Mr. Shell,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
forgot, I know what you're coming for.
I
Jimmy.
didn't either.
Well, I'm glad you're here,
No,
welcome.
just thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Sarah Board, Superintendent Moore. What we're here is to talk about the spot survey 5.6. And I'm just going to go into a little bit of, if you go to the next slide, the Department of Education and Plant Service complete a plant survey every 5 years, and ours was last done in 2020. A spot survey is required when we're using certain funds, such as a capital outlay debt services, and that's why we're bringing this to you, because we plan on using those funds for this project that we're going to present to you. The plant service has worked with FPC staff discussing options with portables, classroom space, and we agree that the best option is this plan that we're going to present in front of you. And this spot survey consists of 3 rooms in Building 7, room 201, 205, and 206. They're currently a little over 1,400 square feet each, and we're going to be splitting them in half. If you go to the next slide, I'll read. so that you can get each room will be split in half, and we will be adding a door to the 207 and 209 to allow those rooms to have like a teacher planning or extra storage for those spaces. Currently, this will add 82 additional student stations by splitting these up, and the budget for this is $175,000.
Relatively inexpensive.
That's
To get more seats.
working with the school and looking at the portables and what that expense would have been. Gracious that the school was willing to look at this option, and we really think this is going to be viable.
Mr. Shell, do you see that as useful?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I mean, currently, we're out of space. I mean, it was looking at the building to try to see what resources would be best used, and obviously the cost of bringing in portables and those things. You know, one thing that, as the school, we were really interested in was making sure we added those doors in there to increase that room. Having a 750 square room without an office space or somewhere you can pull a small group was something we were concerned about, but we worked together to kind of ensure that we have the doors there. So definitely, it gives us room. I mean, we currently have, we definitely need space. We currently, you know, we have sport facilitators and 2 teachers in probably 15 or 20 of our classrooms right now that we're making it work and doing the best, but certainly adding some classroom spaces would be good for us. Yeah.
Questions, anybody else?
If I can add also that I will be coming back to you, because once this is approved, I have to get with DOE, and then they do a project priority list. Well, there'll be a couple projects that have already had spot survey zoning, and then including this one to bring it back forward for your approval again. So you'll see this
Will
again.
this construction be done in-house?
No, ma'am.
So we're gonna go out?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
pay for it? Okay.
Yes, we're currently already.
I've seen us do construction in-house too.
Yeah,
so,
this is a little, you know,
Bigger?
it's bigger and the time consuming, and
Getting
we're
speed.
wanting to get this done quicker
Yeah.
to be able to give it to them,
Okay.
hopefully by the new year. That's our goal.
Oh, okay, that's great.
So,
I was thinking next school year, so that's even better.
no,
We're looking Christmas break.
Yeah, Christmas.
we're shooting for that.
Christmas.
That's what we're trying for, so.
Okay, all right. Anybody else? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
We're good. Going on to item 13, which is human resources. Mr. Roulette. We have 1301, request board approval for personnel items.
And that is just our general consent document, personnel items. That's kind of a rolling list. So this
That's one of
is,
the smallest lists I've seen. I think that's a good thing, is it not?
we're not at the board meeting yet, but
Okay, okay. But it is relatively short.
it is.
And by now, even in past meetings, it's been much longer. So I think that we're settling, so that's a nice thing. Anybody have questions? No. How do we look staff-wise for educators? How many are we looking for still? I know we're short, and everybody is.
We are short, and we are still in the 20s as far as instructional staff. And so
I had to complete a survey yesterday for FADS, and I think it was 8 classroom teachers and 10 other instructional personnel is where we are. So directly in the classroom, 8 classroom positions, and then 10 other personnel,
Yeah,
other instructional personnel.
that is not just a Flagler problem, that is a problem everywhere. And we just keep trying to recruit.
Yes,
Never know
ma'am.
when they're gonna show up, so that's good. Anybody else? No. Okay. All right, going to 1302, transportation job description.
1302 is basically a revised job description for the mechanic position. The purpose behind bringing it forward was that the leadership team over transportation were looking to add additional information to the job description so that as we hire additional mechanics, we have an emphasis on the HVAC systems for our new buses and the ability for mechanics to work on the air conditioning units of the buses. So it's truth in advertising on the front end when we looking for mechanics, that it's an extended job description that we also look for those qualities.
Just a question. I mean, there may be very limited access to people in the area that have that type of capabilities. Is there places they can get it?
Well, I would,
What would they do?
I would defer to the transportation folks as far as the training that would be possible, and I don't know, it's definitely information that I can get and send forward.
Yes. Do you
Come
know?
on up,
Yes,
Steve.
please come up.
Steve was one of the gentlemen who worked on this job description, and
I think it's great. I just want to make sure we can get them trained.
absolutely.
If they don't have it, because they might be close to it, but.
Good
they might
afternoon,
not have
everyone.
it.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Certain parts of the certifications, we could get them with Freon. We could do that in-house. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there's things we can do in-house. Can they get it locally? if
We
they don't
would
have
prefer to
everything?
have them schooled coming in
Okay.
so they could go right to work.
Yes.
But I don't want anything holding back a mechanic that we hire from doing the tasks that they need to do.
And what about the mechanics we have
Mechanics are skilled, but we need an extra hand with high back.
for this?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so, anybody else? Okay, that's good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. All right. You just get to stay up here, huh?
Absolutely.
We love that. All right, we're going on to 1303, professional service contract, school psychologist. Miss Halliday, I know you're here. Come on up. You didn't think I'd let you sit back there all that time. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
All right, what do we got?
Well, this is a professional service contract for a former employee that would be working obviously on a contractual basis to assist with the current caseload for our school psychologists. My understanding, and I don't want to speak for Doc Holliday, this is something that had occurred in the past as well, and it was successful.
Yes, we are at this point in time, we are 4 school psychologists shy. Mr. Seaton's worked with us. As a matter of fact, he's implemented a lot of the strategies and supports that we have in place that we're utilizing now. Bringing him back even 1 day a week would be a great help to our team.
How many do you have now? And staff, school psychologists?
I have 5, and I have 1 intern.
And you're allowed to have, you're supposed to have 9?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, and we just can't get them.
No, ma'am. As a matter of fact, we in part of our bid for services, we had 9 companies that said that they would be able to provide us with school psychologists, and what they've offered is virtual. Virtual doesn't really work for us. With a virtual school psychologist, you'd have to have still another adult sitting next to the student who was testing, and we just don't have those adults either.
Do we know, was this a budgeted position?
It is a budgeted position in that we have budgeted for 4 vacant positions that, you know, we have the staffing funding for. So, you know, in lieu of the money that would be in place for the 4 units, the contractual.
If, let's say magically I was able to get 4 additional people, we would not have to continue on this path. We would be able to say thank you for your service.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
So if it's contracted, it's 63 an hour, but this one's gonna be 47?
Correct.
Anyone
That's
else?
all the questions I have.
Good? All right, thank you, Dr. Holliday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay, we are down to, what's the last one?
Come on up.
Information only, applicant tracking, onboarding, Ms. O'Brien and Mr. O'Brien. Ms. O'Brien, welcome.
Good afternoon, Board, Superintendent. All right, we are coming to you today to talk about a new educator recruitment system. You can go ahead and advance the slide. Our strategic plan alignment is with operational efficiency and our talent goals. So just to give you a little bit of background on our current system, you can see the screenshot. This is what it looks like when we have applicants coming in to apply to Flagler schools. We currently use a product called Fast Track, and it is connected to our student information system and business system, Skyward. This applicant tracking system was implemented in 2013. In order to onboard our employees, it's not connected in that system. We just have to send an email with it's called Ready Sign. It's a collection of e-documents to onboard all of our staff members. We are experiencing several challenges with these particular systems. One major one is that they're not mobile friendly. We know this is a problem because about 70% of job applications are completed on phones, and you're unable to do that with our current system without moving your screen around. It's pretty difficult to do that. And we also know that about 90% of job seekers use their phone to try to find a position. So that's one of our main challenges. We also don't have the ability to post to any national job boards. So anytime you see us with an Indeed posting or LinkedIn, none of that is connected. We have to do all of those postings manually. So we have to generate the job description, post it, and now we're managing applicants in both systems. And also, in order for them to be advertised, they do require an advertising budget. Indeed would cost us around $3,000 annually, plus the cost to sponsor our jobs. We do also have a dated user experience for both the applicant and the hiring manager. For applicants, it's difficult to search positions. They just need to scroll the screen. You can't really do some sort of filter criteria, subscribe to the job boards so that something you're looking for will email you. In terms of our hiring managers and HR personnel, we have no ability to search or recruit our candidates by criteria. Everything is attached to that individual position. We can't do candidate searches. And also we have no dashboard. So things like when we receive a request or we're just trying to monitor vacancies, like the request we got a couple of days ago, that means we're going in and manually counting what we have in terms of vacancies. We can run a few reports, but they require us to build the report, run it, filter it. There aren't any canned reports in our system. In terms of onboarding, we do manage that through email and e-documents. That makes it difficult to have insight into the hiring process for both our hiring managers and HR personnel. So in terms of progress, when we're bringing someone on board, we know that we have sent them the packet via email, and we know if they have opened it, and then we know when it's completed. But we can't see their progress through filling out those documents, kind of where they're stuck. And our candidates have expressed some difficulty with completing the paperwork in that fashion, whether it not showing on their desktop, difficult to do on the phone, or things going to spam. We have some goals for a new recruitment system. From the hiring manager and HR perspective, we really want to tap into the new Florida DOE and national job boards. So PowerSchool has obtained the Florida Department of Education contract, and they will be using a particular job board. So we want to be able to tap into that with an applicant tracking system that will connect to it. We'd like to improve user experience and screening options for our candidates, increase visibility so that we can manage the hiring process better. We're looking for a more efficient workflow, and ultimately we want to bring our new hires in faster. In terms of the candidates, really looking for a mobile and user-friendly job search and application experience for them, better communication throughout the hiring process, so the ability to easily send messages that go right to that candidate's phone in the form of a text message rather than them having to check their email frequently, and then ease of access to and completion of our onboarding tasks. We've vetted several systems, and we are recommending the PowerSchool Educator Recruitment Cloud. This particular system will contain 3 modules, and that is the applicant tracking system, the School Spring Job Board, and employee records. That's the onboarding system. So that would be all the forms that we build within that. This just gives you a peek at the School Spring National Job Board. So not only is this now the DOE job board, this will go into effect in 2024, but this is going to be the state-sponsored job board. It's also a national job board, so we can attract candidates from all over the United States using this particular platform. This will really help us, increase exposure. The job searching and the interactive map is really neat. So if we have an applicant coming from, they know that they want to move to Florida, they can see with the circles there, it's kind of a thermal map, they can see where the jobs are located and kind of dial into those. And then anything that is posted to the Florida State Job Board is automatically posted to the National Job Board. This piece just kind of drills into the Florida Statewide Job Board. It's a single portal for all job seekers to find education jobs in Florida. So from the applicant angle, right now they're having to make accounts at every school district that they would like to apply at. This will allow them to make one account and kind of manage that profile, just one profile, set different search criteria and filters so that they get notified of jobs that suit them. And then of course there's branding tools, that connect them to the Florida Department of Ed. One of the big pieces from the applicant end is that searchable profile. So we can actually recruit using this system. Right now, we are not doing much in the way of recruiting using job boards. We are connected through Handshake, which is we can recruit some applicants coming right out of college, but this will allow us to set certain criteria, whether that be education qualifications, certifications, and it's not just instructional staff. So we can set these criteria for non-instructional staff that we're looking to hire as well. On the flip side, the candidate can set their own job search preferences, so that will allow us to match with each other and be notified. As far as the applicant tracking module, we will be able to brand it, so it says Flagler Schools. This would replace that screenshot that I showed you earlier of our current system Fast Track. So this would be the landing page for us. Our website would link to this, and when the person is searching on Indeed or School Spring or ZipRecruiter and they click apply, it will take them in here. The candidates can use their profile with the state and national job boards. They can quickly complete those applications online, and then we can use on the back end screening tools to move candidates through the hiring process. The last module that we are looking at is employee records, and this is really just where the onboarding is housed. This particular module is really robust and allows you to have all of your personnel records in here. We're not looking to purchase that piece. This would just be the onboarding documents that are needed to get them hired with us. The information that is captured in here, we are able then to have that information flow into Skyward. There's a bit of a manual process, but certainly no worse than what we're experiencing right now. It's a certain improvement to that. One of the great things about this module is that it allows us to customize the forms, and then we can build workflows. So if we have a particular document that's filled out by an applicant, and that document needs to be visible to payroll and benefits specialists, we can build that into the document so that they can do their next step of quickly onboarding the person. Right now, all of that is managed through emails. It gets pretty clunky in our inboxes. So next steps, if we were to move forward with this, the system implementation takes about 3 months to full adoption. PowerSchool does manage that system configuration for us. They create user guides, they train our district administrators. We would be looking at a timeline like this. We're bringing this forward to you today to answer any questions that you might have, as you'll see an upcoming purchase order for it. These dates are significant for us due to hiring season. When we are entering into the spring, we're doing job fairs, recruiting, and hiring. It's very busy as we go into the summer, so we'd like for the system to be implemented before we get to that, and we've worked out all the kinks. In terms of the startup cost, it's $28,000, $327, and that does include the implementation fees, and then the annual recurring cost is $15,000. This system has been budgeted in our half-cent funds and has been in the works. And so the ongoing costs are budgeted within the half-cent dollars as well. So we've been working closely with technology on this.
All right, questions?
Yeah, so with this software, it would be replacing the Skyward and Fast Track, is that correct?
It would replace the Fast Track, so it wouldn't replace Skyward. Skyward's the larger umbrella system, if you will. But Fast Track is the applicant tracking system.
Gotcha, but
yes.
is that kind of like one of those things where you just get all those features, or are we paying for each module in Skyward?
We bought that about a decade ago, as I believe, as a one-time fee.
Oh, so we don't pay a subscriction?
Not any. We pay
NEFEC
NEFEC to support us on that, so it's a little different.
And then Fast Track, would that be sunsetted, that product? And how much what is our cost to maintain that one?
We could potentially use some features of it. So since Skyward is still our HR information system, we might be interested in using like the job requisition piece of it that would tie the position and the funding code that then would flow into the applicant tracking. So we may use a few features of it, and there wouldn't be any cost to sunset it or to keep it, as far as I'm aware.
Fast Track is, again, one of those softwares where we own it outright, we don't pay any subscriptions?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And then, so the 3-month implementation, so that means from the time we say, we want this product, so during that window of time, there's no functional use for it until this implementation is fully completed, right?
It'll fade. Yeah, it'll fade. They'll build it out behind us, and then there'll be a rollover.
Okay. And can you give me an idea for the $28,327? What does that look like? What is the implementation process that they shared with you? What it was going to look like?
Yeah, so I should have included that slide. I do actually have a document that I can share with you that details all of our responsibilities and their responsibilities, but really they are, we're doing some process mapping on the front end, so they need to learn our business processes so that they can help configure the system, and then they'll be configuring it to our needs based on best practices across the nation and in Florida. And they would create user guides for our people to learn the system and then train. So typically when we've rolled out, we recently implemented a different system with Power School, and they'll provide us training via webinar. They give us documents and some self-paced modules, and then we can call and they'll consult with us on different ends of it.
Okay. My only concern, it sounds like this is something that we need, right? I mean, anything we can do to improve the process, the onboarding, and I agree, mobile, if you're not mobile, if I go to a website and it can't work on my phone, I'm gone. See you later. And so I think that's great that we're moving that direction. But we've had other softwares before that we've purchased, and it was bought, and then there was expectations of meeting certain deadlines, but they never got there, and it became more of a pilot program. So I just want to know how realistic. That's why I wanted to see that implementation, that we're going to be able to make sure this happens in 3 months, right? And have they had experience with other districts with implementation as well that can back that up?
I think a couple things is Power School is the big player in town right now. They've purchased a lot of other companies, and the fact that the state has adopted them to be that interface for their job board and moving forward, that this is something that, for example, we have Power School products already in the evaluation system. So they create the shell for our purposes moving forward. So there's not a whole lot of individual uniqueness as far as like a special Flagler form we're going to need to change or configure. We're going to follow the processes that are best practices for hiring, and then kind of plug them into the tools and the vessels that they have. So it's not it's not something that you would look at, for example, education software. You know, you look at some education software and, you know, I'm going to use a reading program that's going to level out reading and things like that. We are following the prescribed hiring method, and it's just a plug and play.
But I mean, like, who's is this their work? Are they doing all of this for us on the back end during this implementation, or does it take a lot of interaction from our side?
It takes interaction. We would have to have an implementation team made up of HR professionals, technology, and probably some of our stakeholders, our hiring managers to give input, our onboarding specialists. Of course, we would have an implementation team that would be a part of onboarding this system. I did speak directly, quite honestly, at length with 3 different districts about the implementation process, because I wasn't sure it would be as easy as they were saying it would, and they did. They fully recommended it. Some stood this up during the COVID timeframe when they had limited, you know, in-person interaction, and they all said it went very well from an implementation standpoint.
And I just want to add, one of the things that we also did speak about, though we know we need to go to a different platform, timing is everything for us, and if they are not able to commit to the timeline that we've agreed to of December to February, it's ready to go, then we would not move forward with going over and implementing that quickly. So it may be a delayed PO that you would then see at that time, but something we still want to move towards. But we're not going to be in limbo in the middle of the busiest time of year.
And I mean, we spoke to a few different counties, and one has actually had this implemented for 8 years now. So it's not like everybody's coming on board as early adopters and, you know, hoping for the best. This does have a statewide track record.
And in the ongoing fee, the annual cost, I assume, will that include the support we need on the back end for, you know, when we have new hires, things like that, and they need that extra back end support?
Yeah, one of the nice features with this is all of the support for applicants is actually through PowerSchool. Right now, we troubleshoot accounts, people with password issues, people having trouble navigating that. We troubleshoot that in our HR office, but all of that support is through PowerSchool. So that is one nice feature. And because we have some other modules with PowerSchool, so our online evaluation system, the way that we track our in-service points, it's called professional learning. We're very connected with them and their members, their service teams, and they've been fairly responsive to us, and so I feel positive about the support that we would get, and they did also let us know that we could work with a consultant at no cost. I assume it is kind of included in this cost, but to do some of our process work before we get to the stages of implementation, so that we can be sure that the way that we're doing things makes sense, it's efficient. So they're giving us some resources on that end as well.
Thank you for that explanation.
Ms. John, anything?
I mean, we need teachers, so if this is something that helps,
I think
then we have to do it.
I think it's about time that this finally happened. Being in education and searching for positions, and how it's been fragmented for so many years. Then I was here when Fast Track came in, and how everybody had to be trained on Fast Track, because even just the summer hires, there's a whole process that you had to learn because you had to figure out how to use the new system. Can our current applicants roll over?
We'll be able
How
to,
that work?
Yeah, we'll be able to import all of their basic profile information. We can import that into the system. Now, they will want to build, again, their things like work history and what they would typically put on a resume. They'll want to build that, but we can get all of their basic
that
information.
was one of the glitches we had when we came into Fast Track.
Yeah.
Because everyone had to kind of basically reapply.
Yes, yeah.
And that was crazy, because all the people who had sitting there ready to go had to go and reapply again. So that's really an important piece of that, because we do have a number of applicants that are just sitting there waiting for the right positions to come.
Yes.
So that's important. I love the concept. It's unfortunate, it's gonna cost us a little bit. We've been getting by pretty well, because we've been free, but we need more, you're right. We need to be able to have every college person who puts out an application in education, oh, Florida, let's go to Florida. That would be a big plus.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we could benefit from that immensely. And being close to the ocean, that's another plus for us, as opposed to being in Orlando or landlocked. So, I love the idea. I think it's a good way to go.
Yeah, and plus with especially in positions that there's a lot of vacancy, you know, when you have somebody that wants to fill it, if you make it complicated for them to apply, they may just go on to the next place that has an easier platform.
Yep.
So I think just the efficiencies of this could potentially allow us to capture more applications.
Yeah.
So
Yep. It would be money well spent. I think it'll pay off in the long run. Very good. Very good. Okay.
So the next time the board will see this will be on POs over 10,000.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, jumping down now to 1601. Request for letters of interest for school board attorney position. Ms. Chris Galara.
Good afternoon, board members, Chairman Sarno, Superintendent Moore. I am bringing before you today a draft solicitation for the request for letters of interest for a school board attorney based on some prior meetings and the interest to move forward in finding what is out there and available to potentially fill that position. Attached was a draft that I have done some research from other districts that have done this same thing, pulled the best information that I could from all of it, fit it with some of our information in here. What would be a requirement per se of the scope of services, primary duties, etc. There is a time schedule included based upon your approval of this. And with that, would not be looking to potentially receive submittals back from interested firms until very early January. So once those, you'll see on page 3, there are 2 dates. Submittals discussed by school board and presentation/discussions with firms selected by school board. That would be probably more to like at least maybe the 3rd week in January. So final approval on this to move forward of getting there we'd be looking at really like February. Because even though we received the submittals due in on the 4th, by the time I get them together for you, disperse them to you, and then give you a good at least week to 10 days maybe to come together, that we would get together to review those, and I get your feedback, and then probably in at least another good week to 10 days to bring the firms that you would potentially want to have discussions or presentations with. So and the rest of it, a lot of it is just basically formal information on how they're to respond, how to turn into me. You'll see on pages, beginning on page 4 through page 7, is all of the information that I request that will outline or tell about their firm, capacity, ability, skill of the firm, experience and qualifications of their attorneys, fee schedule, references, etc. And that would be the information that would then be turned over to you.
Questions?
okay, so with this here, this is the scope here. Are you saying you want this to be approved by our next board meeting? Is that what you're asking?
On the 28th, per se. Once you approve this draft, if there's any tweaks that you would per se see in more so section 2 of this, like the scope of services, if you'd want something additional or something removed, I can make those tweaks. We could final approve it on the 28th and then give me a day or so to just get it issued out, make those changes if need be. And really go from there, yes.
Are we bound by that, by any, we solicit, are we bound by it?
As far as for other firms?
Mhm.
No, it is not.
It's just
it
a
is
request for interest.
correct. Yes,
Okay, I just
and
wanna
this
make
also correct. You do not have to move forward with it if you did not want to. Once we receive that information back, how you choose to award it, you can. If you don't see any that you like, we can reject and go back out again. And it's also in here. It's non-exclusive. So I mean, it is not something. Just because we have them doesn't mean we can't. Contract with other firms if needed.
I don't see why we're gonna have to do this, because we can't drag our feet depending on what happens.
Yeah.
And this might not be the way we go, too, so, I mean, we might not use this at all, or use it as a branch for whatever direction we head.
Yeah.
So I
Well, yeah, definitely need to, so I
Have
guess
to.
any revisions that we want, we need to get them in right away.
Yes, so do look at them, and then if you have anything, contact Ms. Calera. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Good enough. All right,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. A little too far.
Oh.
All right, yeah.
I forgot.
Okay, so now we're going down to 2201, the value adjustment board, is it?
17.
Or 17?
1701.
Board approval of award contract reputation to bid, yes, the E-rate.
So, Board, thank you for the opportunity, Superintendent. What we're bringing before you for approval is a ITB invitation to bid. This was put together to meet the requirements of the federal E-rate program. So just a little bit of background, the federal E-rate program is funded through basically the taxes that you see on your telecommunications bill, so your cell phone bill, all those little cents and dollars kind of, they tend to add up. This last fiscal year generated $4.768 billion in discounts to public schools and public libraries, as well as nonprofit private schools. So this program was developed in the late 90s and implemented to really help kind of bring the internet to everyone. At that time you saw that there was a lot of availability of services in more urban areas than there was in rural, so this was really implemented to kind of quote unquote level the playing field. So the premise of the E-rate program is it looks at the local communities and then tiers out discount rates to allow the affordability of telecommunications equipment, internet access for all of those public schools across the country. So E-rate program gives discounts based off of a set of criteria between 20 and 90%. And is based off of economic need and then location, really based off of whether you're considered an urban district or rural, depending on where you're at, and that's based off of census data. So currently, our free and reduced lunch numbers, when you take into account that, gives us a calculated discount of about, at 80%. So when you look at what the dollar amount of what these contracts are, we actually will only pay 20% of that based off of what our current E-rate discount is. Now, a little caveat too that I just want to point out, and I know you guys are familiar that we've moved towards the community eligibility, which for the food service side of things, when we talked about where those dollars and cents line up, we're in certification now, the process with the state, and it looks like we're going to flip to 90% based off of those numbers. So this potentially, and we haven't gotten that certified yet, but we actually have up until about May to get that certification completed. So you'd see that percentage of this contract actually go down to 10% of what the local responsibility would be. So just to kind of give a little bit of background, this is Category 2. Category 2 is what the equipment that is inside of our schools. So it's access points, it's switches, firewalls, routers, those types of things that constitutes the infrastructure inside of our facilities that allows us then to broadcast and make that internet access available in our classrooms and facilities. So this bid was put together, and when it went out, we developed what the scope of this was from a standpoint of what equipment that we were looking for, and then put that with the help of purchasing in a manner that allowed us to kind of say, here's what we're looking for, or an alternative. And then we had the opportunity to look through these. So that really worked out well for us. We had 10
submissions, as you can see here, which is really good. Some of them only bid on the, for instance, one category, like the UPS category, that would be DOF Creations. What you see highlighted is actually what the companies that we are recommending award to. Now, what you're going to see here is not the actual dollar value as what's on the second attachment, because what is on here is an option for a 3-year or a 5-year license, and that was done so we could determine what would be best for us. We did choose the 5-year license, which you'll see on the what I have called the recommendation of award tabulation. The one company, United Data, did not, they submitted an equivalent item, but after review did not equal, I guess, what would be considered an equivalent to the Cisco product that we were, that we put out. So as you can see here, these match the line items that would be awarded to, for instance, CDWG. So you'll see some zeros. I didn't want to take those out to completely be confusing on that. And that's the switching part, down to the category of optics and UPSs and access points. Again, it removes the 3-year licensing out of the equation here in these numbers.
So in this format, it allowed us to categorize each individual group so that when we were looking at these individually, we were able to identify the most cost-effective within each one of those groups. And then the award is actually to multiple vendors to kind of get to that price point of that just under 1.7 million. But again, keeping in mind, we're working through the E-rate process with this, which currently is the federal programs will cover 80% of that. The other piece of this is when we put this together, we worked with purchasing to allow us some verbiage in there that can get us projected out over the course of purchasing this equipment over the next 3 years, which covers the next 2 tiers of funding from the E-rate program. So this will give us the flexibility to continue to implement and support this and push those out in a manner that we're able to accomplish in grouping of the projects. So our teams will actually be doing the work in the deployment and the configuration and the setup for this project.
Okay, so just in summary here, the total contract of all this is the 1,683,405 and 85 cents. With the E-rate funding right now, we would receive the value of that 1.683, but only paying 336,681.
Correct.
And you're saying there's a potential that could go as high as to the 90, so we only have to pay 10% of that?
Correct.
Okay.
10% of the 1.6 million.
1.6, yeah, about 168,000.
So half of that 338.
Okay.
336.
And it's 5-year contract.
I have to double check. I believe we did I think it's a 3-year.
Yeah, the contract with the vendor,
3 years, not
is
5.
3, but that's to be able to purchase over the course of 2 funding years from E-rate.
Okay.
The license, this would be the licensing and warranty that goes along with that is 5 years.
Okay.
And we were looking at funding and where that would land as far as budget and what funding is available through E-rate to be able to make that decision of what makes the most sense based off of those things. Where this came through, this gave us the opportunity and the dollars of where this came in to actually do the 5 rather than the 3.
Is it budgeted for?
Yes, It's required that we are budgeted. But this project we are bidding out will actually be a work through the approval process. We'll get approval potentially from E-rate. So all of this caveat is that once we receive approval for that funding, then we'll move forward with purchase orders. You really won't see purchase orders for this because the funding year doesn't really start until July 1 of 24. So we'll be looking to do purchase orders leading up to after the approval to receive that equipment on site for an implementation of summertime, essentially, is when we're able to do this type of deployments.
They used free or reduced lunch. We don't have that right now. So what are they using?
Community eligibility. So you look at where those community eligibility numbers are, and they have a formula that dictates that. So our current 80%,
drop a little bit.
right?
We hope.
Potentially, it looks that way based off of the numbers that we that Angie worked through through food service. When we take those numbers for community eligibility and put them into the matrix for the discount rates for the E-rate program, it looks like we will be certified at 90% when we are looking to actually do these purchase orders. So essentially what happens with this is the vendors, once they're awarded, they actually, in this process, will directly invoice the FCC, the E-rate program, for the portion that they're getting from them. So when we do the purchase order, we'll have that information there for what the total cost is, but our line item cost will essentially be the 20% based off of that. So the invoice from the vendor will have that discount represented there, and then they directly invoice the E-rate program for that piece of the funding. So part of the program, we have to budget the total cost, and then once we have these projects lined up and we get those approval, then we can go through that. So again, these are things that these cost savings then become true cost savings.
Very beneficial.
Yes.
Does this expense come out of just one account, or is it from different accounts? The portion we have to pay.
It's half penny. All category 2 that we have done have come out of half penny. There's category 1, which will be bringing some things back for the board potentially, depending on how those contracts are returned and what that looks like. But those have a direct impact on our general fund because those telecommunications dollars, so this would be like what we pay for internet, what we pay for connectivity, those costs, that's a direct piece because that's an operational expense. So that's a direct impact when you look at the cost savings and that being in the general fund.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now 22, School Board Attorney, Ms. Gavin. 2201, selection of Value Adjustment Board member and alternate. Business member.
Good afternoon, Board, Chair Massaro, Superintendent. I am here to let you know that the Value Adjustment Board member that previously sat on the Value Adjustment Board as our business member, we have reached out to that individual. It is Mr. Wright, and he has indicated that he is willing to once again serve on the Value Adjustment Board. So this is one of the housekeeping orders that we need to do when we do the reorganization meeting, although it's handled outside of it. The other half of this, where you all will be selecting your Value Adjustment Board member, will happen inside the reorganization, because that is one of the liaison positions that we appoint. So that will happen at the reorg meeting for the board member, but Mr. Wright is going to continue on in the capacity as your Value Adjustment business member, meeting all of the
We need an alternate.
Yes, and so we do need an alternate, and so that is, I'm here to see if there is someone in case for some reason he would not be able to serve. We do need to have somebody, and they do have to have a business within Palm Coast. So if you have any ideas on somebody, that would be great. That we could
I
use.
would speak to Ms. Rizzo to see if she could recommend or speak to somebody in the business world here that would have a nomination, just as an alternate.
Sure.
Because we have to have it.
Sure, I'll put some feelers out there, but
Yes,
if Ms. Rizzo has one at hand, go.
Yeah.
By all
Perfect.
means.
Yeah.
Somebody in Flagler County, right?
It has to be.
It has to be Palm
business.
Coast, actually, so, you know.
Is Quantum in Palm Coast? Or it's in
So
Vanell?
Mr. Wright is both Palm Coast and Bunnell. He's got everything. He's got businesses in both Bunnell and Palm Coast, and yeah, he's got several businesses. In the past, we've had issues where we've had somebody who didn't meet qualifications and criteria because of where their business was located, and so we had to keep reaching out until we had somebody. Or they may have worked for somebody, but they weren't of ownership to where they met the criteria again. So there's criteria that we have to make sure are
So
a part
we'll
of it.
work on getting an alternate. God, at least we got a representative.
Yes,
Which is good.
Yes, ma'am.
I will reach out to Ms. Rizzo.
So the next thing is just for you all to be considering, again, it's that time for you to make a decision on who you want to have as your FSBA director and alternate. And then also the FSBA Advocacy Committee member and alternate. So those are two positions that are in addition to your liaison positions that you hold that we'll need to decide on. So it's just a placeholder reminder that those areas will come up during the November 28th meeting. Okay. That's it for those, unless there's any questions.
All right, 2204.
So 2204, this is the large grouping of the various policies that are being proposed to be amended and or added to our school board policy. We did send this out to the various department heads, administrators, principals who would be impacted by any of these changes to see whether or not they had any proposed recommendations or changes. And I do want to let you know that School Board Policy 306, there is one minor tweak to School Board Policy 306, and it actually just has to do with adding the term district to the verbiage of threat management coordinator. Instead of it just saying threat management coordinator, it says district threat management coordinator. So that is the tweak and change for that area under Safe Schools. The other area where there were changes was under School Board Policy 410, the instructional materials selection, where the verbiage of director of curriculum, we instead call our person, we've gone away from being the director of curriculum to director of teaching and learning. So that tweak to identify our specific employee has been made. And then there was one area on page 5, it's section K, where teachers, instead of teachers being used, they were referred to instead as instructional personnel. And then the only other change is that instead of there being a 15-day, it is a 30-day review. And so those are, and oh, yes, and if there's an individual that is named to the committee that's unable to participate when that challenge is going forward, there's the ability to go ahead and fulfill that vacant position for that specific book. So those are currently the proposed changes. I'm just bringing those to you now. There could still be additional tweaks or changes to any of these policies, but that's what I have at this juncture. And so I didn't know if there were any questions or anything at this point from the board.
I would recommend that board make sure we review these policies between now and our next meeting, just so you have a handle. If you have questions, you'll be ready to have them at that night.
Yes, ma'am.
Fair enough?
And the only other thing is that I will give you, so right now, the AI, the artificial intelligence policy, our drone policy, and the internet safety policy, those actually are brand new policies, and I will give you designations of where in the school board policy manual they will be dropped in.
Okay, those three at the bottom.
Yes.
Are all brand new.
Those are all brand new.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? We're good?
Thank you.
Okay. That's
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Going on to old business, 23, old business. Does anybody have old business to discuss?
Yes, I have some old business to discuss.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is in regards to the investigation that took place at Buddy Taylor Middle School regarding the agriculture program and the incident that happened there.
The rat fight?
Yeah.
All right.
And so, you know, that investigation had been concluded. And apparently there was a public records request, and local blog, you know, Flagler Life, wrote an article about that. And this article upset a lot of parents. And I've received contact from parents and statements from parents. And they're very upset that the comments that were given, the handwritten statements that were given by the students as part of the investigation were released along with that investigation. Because these are minor children that, you know, we asked to help participate in our investigation, and then now this information has been gone out and has actually caused some emotional harm to one of the students because of this information coming back around. So I think we owe it to these parents to explain why this happened, you know, how it happened, and if there are procedures that we can put into place to prevent this from happening in the future. So my question is, to begin with, you know, when it comes to the release of this, I believe that was sent to you, Ms. Gavin, the public records request?
It was sent through the public records.
Okay. And so this, you heard what my statement there. Why did we release the handwritten statements of these children along with the outcome of the report?
So these handwritten, and I believe it's the typographical errors of the student statements, those are within the report. Those specific, in other words, the words were not corrected in the report. They were verbatim into the report, and we do not the students' names were redacted in entirety. And when I say in entirety, not even initials were provided, so there are no initials. In addition, if there was a parent who was the complainant, the parent entire name was fully and 100% redacted. Within the report, it was the witness statements that were prepared by the investigator that did the report, and those exact verbatim of the witness statements were contained with the typographical errors, not attributed to any specific student.
Yeah, but the problem is that in the statements, there are statements that are identifiers that one could come to a identification of somebody by reading the statement, by merely saying, you know, the rat bit me. So you know that whoever was that singles it out to a very specific person, right? So why didn't we redact these students? Because what relevance did that have in the public? The report was there was a conclusion, right? And then we have statements from minors that were released alongside of this, and we asked these kids to do this, and then now it's out in public record.
And I appreciate that, but student statements that are a part of the investigation was an investigation into an employee. And that employee, their investigation and their final report, that is attached to the employee, not the student. And unfortunately, we are not able to redact a student statement, which has to be used for us, without those student statements, there were no other adults to receive that information regarding whether or not the employee had made any violation of our policies. That's what was being investigated.
Right. I'm sorry I didn't read this article, but I have a really hard time seeing why it's okay that comments from students that happen inside the school should end up in a news article. Like, I'm kind of blown away right now.
Well, here, we hold the record, right? And we have a request for it. But we have some discretion on redaction. I mean, we can be challenged if somebody wants to challenge the redaction. But if we can choose to redact information if we so choose before we release it, right?
Well, you have to have, it has to meet with the exception of what can be excluded. There are very limited exceptions to public records requests. We are in a state where transparency is at a high commodity. We are in a state where unless it meets the exception, it cannot be redacted. And so if there is a FERPA violation, and so I'm going to give you the example, we do not release video of students, even if it's video of our students captured by a camera in the hallway. If it involves a fight, we do not release that video because the investigation that is taking place involves specific students who may be disciplined from that specific video. And that video attaches to that student's record. These witness statements are not a part of a student record. They are not contained in the student's record, and so there is no FERPA protection for the student. This statement was taken in conjunction, wholly in conjunction with an employee investigation. And at this juncture, no student names have been provided. In fact, when the employee receives the information, the name is redacted. It never gets disclosed of those student names until it actually goes to the Department of Education if professional ethics is investigating it, and if we receive subpoenas, and then and a request for the full file, it's requested unredacted, because then they go back and take those student statements again.
Yeah, but there's all these state statutes that lean toward protecting children's identity, their location of their school, their home address, in these certain circumstances. And so are you saying we did not have, it was not within our purview or within our choice, basically, to redact that? We would be breaking the law if we would have redacted this information that was from these minors that participated in this investigation. Could we have done it?
Could we have done what? The entire investigation was in conjunction with, other than the teacher stating her side of what took place, everything that happened related to that incident was 100% student-based information. There is no other adult to provide information on what took place to determine whether or not the severity of that matter or incident.
So, but could we have redacted that before it was sent out to a news organization?
It would not be redacted in any public records request.
It cannot.
The report is the report in and of itself.
You're saying we cannot choose to redact a minor statement in a
not when
report.
It's related to the investigation. What am I redacting? There's no student name in there.
Well, there are things in the statements that could clearly help somebody could identify that student, their location of their school, and who they were by just reading the statement. right? And this kid was already harassed for coming forward out of the gate because this was a popular program, a popular teacher, and some of the kids felt that this, by them coming forward, they could lose it, and the family had gotten past that, and now because this was released, this child has now gone through a whole nother round of this, and it is, I can't imagine that you're saying that we could not redact it. It's my understanding that we can redact anything we want with a reason, right? But it can be challenged, right? If somebody disagrees with us. And I would imagine best practice would be when we have statements from a child, right, as a student at our school, that those statements be redacted and not put into the public, and especially when it is going to media, right? Because the media's intention is always going to be to print that. And so we're not talking about an investigation from the authorities or things like that. We're talking about a media request, and we supplied these statements that had writing that was that, and mind you, one of these kids at least has some struggles, and he was trying to do the right thing and help out his school by being part of this, and in the end, this comes back to bite him again. And I just, this can't be. And
we have had, this is not the first time that an employee has been investigated, and 100% of the information has to come from students. So I'm not sure how I redact the students' statements of what took place. The students' statements of what took place are whether or not the teacher did or did not act appropriately. That was the complaint, and we received a complaint from a parent. We had to investigate that matter. So a complaint was received from a parent. The matter was investigated. As a part of that investigation, student statements were taken. When student statements are taken, in this case, they were made a part of the report, as they are made a part of the report in all investigations. And their names are redacted so that it cannot be determined what student, but the information is relevant. It is 100% relevant whether or not a student was, I'm not sure what information you wanted me to redact, that the fact that the student got bit, because that was relevant to the investigator in terms of whether there was a violation of safety for the students. So it was 100% relevant to that investigation.
But this is a small town, and it's not hard for people to figure out who somebody's talking about. And unfortunately, this is another example of reasons that parents don't want to talk to us. They don't want to let their identity be known. They try to go through other channels to let us know things, and they're scared. They're scared to come forward and talk to the school board. So,
well, but bottom line is, we could have redacted that if you chose to redact that for whatever. Maybe I believe it should be redacted. Maybe you believe it shouldn't have. So, but you could have if you deemed that it was necessary. You can redact that. I mean, if I was in that role, if I was in your role and I chose to redact it, I would be within my rights to redact those comments from the statement, right?
I have to go by Florida statute and Florida laws, and the way that this isn't my interpretation. This is how other districts would also move this forward. The statement from a witness in an investigation, it is no different than if this was a criminal investigation. And the student, what happened to the student? The names of the students are always redacted. But what happened to the student does not get redacted from the criminal statement.
Were the parents of the children made aware that these statements, if they participate in this investigation, that these statements could potentially be public record?
I can't tell you what those parents were. I wasn't a part of that investigation. I didn't do the investigation. You would need to ask the investigator.
Okay, so is that within our procedures for investigation? Is anybody aware that there is a requirement like that in those procedures when engaging a minor and having them participate in an investigation?
I can tell you that I know for a fact when it comes to criminal matters, we do notify the parents of the fact that their participation and being a part of that investigation, that their statement may be used, that it would have to be a part of it, and the parents agree to cooperate or not.
Hi, Mr. Wallet's shaking his head. Would you like to share what information that you're shaking your head about, please?
Board, we do have a procedure manual for internal investigations, and we have a procedure manual and best practice for what we do when we interview students. And one is that the investigator will be accompanied by a school administrator, and two is that we will contact the parent either by phone and we do contact by phone and ask them if they want to come in, or if they'd be okay with us talking to the student, or if they would like to stay on the line when we have a discussion with the student. And we do make it aware to folks that, unfortunately, everything that we do is a public record.
Okay, so you're saying that these parents were given that, did they sign something? Is it a verbal acknowledgement?
There's a verbal discussion. I was not the investigator in this instance. There is a verbal discussion, and the standard practice is, hi, Miss Jones, I'm here with your son, Lewis, and I'm here with the assistant principal, Jones, and we are looking into an issue involving such and such a person. Your child may have some information. The question is, would you like to come down while we have this conversation? Are you okay with talking? If the parent says, I really don't want my child to talk about the incident, then we say thank you very much and we appreciate your time. And then that's what we note in the investigation.
Well, so I think we need to revisit some of these, and I think there needs to be some sort of written acknowledgement of a parent when we're dealing with a minor student in an investigation. It needs to be very clear that everything that this child writes in its exactly verbatim how they are writing it, even if it's not in the proper form, it could be released to the media. It has to be expressed, because this has led now to something that is really affecting one of our students here, and they were just doing the right thing. They were just trying to help us out, and it came back around and hit them, and that's just not okay.
Mr. Perry, I want to make sure you understand that the student's statement was typed into the report. I want to make sure you understand that.
Yeah, I know, it was typed in.
It was typed in verbatim.
Verbatim, right.
Yeah.
But it could have been, it could have been redacted.
Or it could have been summarized.
In my view,
they did not
a minor
summarize
statement should not be released out in public records. Whether there's some sort of a caveat, because it's not, because if it was a student's file, then we wouldn't have released it. So all of a sudden, this is just some random caveat because it was a part of an employee investigation. We could have still leaned on the side of caution and redacted that based on all these other protection laws that we have that basically say this is not okay, and this one exception, because it was in a employee investigation, that now it's all of a sudden okay?
It's not a student record. That's the issue. FERPA covers student records. It is not a student record.
Right, I understand that, but you still could have, regardless of that, you could have redacted it. You could have made the decision saying, you know what, this may not be covered under FERPA, but it would be best practice to protect these children and not release their personal statements out to the media.
That's not my purview. I have to comply with statute.
All right, so you were saying something about but putting out something to parents so they know.
Yeah, I think whether this will go into policy or into procedure, we should have immediately put into place a vehicle of information, whether it be a form that the parent signs, that when they are involved that the information you give could be out in the public, whatever the proper wording is there, that it's subject to public records request. Because I don't know that in the moment, you know, everybody thinks like, hey, I'm just doing the right thing here, and then they don't realize that it might come back to them and cause them some sort of harm, if any, right? So it's about transparency when it comes to that. So I'd like to see that put into motion right away. And it's unfortunate that this, I mean, here's the fallout, right? So here's a mom who feels like she has no, this is a one-way article, right? This article goes to belittle a student that has some learning challenges, and the teachers that teach him, right? And the statement that came from this is after the statement was written into the article, the writer of the article said, for a middle school student, the poverty of the writing, similar to other statements included in the investigation report, suggests that Buddy Taylor has other grave academic problems on its hands. And that was not a true reflection of our schools. That was not a true reflection of our school. Now that is that writer's opinion, but that is because those statements were sent out verbatim in that child's own words. That is the fallout that comes from that. And I cannot believe that there's not a state statute that we could have applied to not release those statements. And so this mother, right, she had sent me a letter because she feels I can't get heard here, and no one's hearing me here. So I'm going to read her statement that she sent to me, so we can understand what the impact of this here, and to find a way to make sure that this doesn't happen again. There's got to be a way. I'm not going to accept that state statute allowed this to happen. I mean, maybe that's a defense, right? But I believe that we could have redacted that. I really do believe that, and I will continue that review of that belief of mine, and we'll see where that goes. But I believe that based on what I read, we could have redacted those statements. And so here's from this mother. I'm a mother of one of the children involved in the article that was published on Flagler Live. The situation written about happened more than 2 months ago. It was something that we weren't happy to have to deal with, and we handled it with the school in a discreet manner, and my son greatly enjoyed the class and the teacher. Bring the situation to light both greatly upset my son and put him in a rough spot with his friends. They were very upset with him, which caused him great anguish. I had to remind him that he did nothing wrong. We had to speak to him and a few of his friends to stress this, and that we were only doing what any parent would if their child was injured at school and not notified. Over 2 months later, I was sent a link to an article that made this public news. I was horrified as I read it. I became livid when I saw statements attacking the writing skills of the 2 children mentioned. I understand the article. I understand it being in the news. I can even understand the attack on the school. There is zero reason to use the statement of 2 children and judge their scholastic skills before the entire county and beyond. They didn't want to be a part of this investigation or take away from their class time or deal with the social pressures of being involved. They didn't want to write the statement. They did it quickly and without regard for grammar and spelling. I immediately was concerned for my son and the other child. When I got home, I went to greet him and embrace him for the news. He already knew he was already being teased for his statement because while his name was not in the article, the kids knew. Both my husband and I called the editor the next day to share our thoughts and asked them to remove the callous and thoughtless statements. I happened to call after my husband and was met with an aggressive editor who sternly stressed he had already talked with me. I stated, "This is the first time I called." He said he spoke with my husband at length and has already removed the line from the article. I expressed that I was happy to hear that, but as a mother, still want to get off my chest how that impacts us. I expressed the emotional challenges this situation has brought and the concerns for our son, who has worked hard to both overcome emotional and learning challenges in recent years, specifically with reading and writing. I stated that while his name was not included in the article, the students knew who he is. He replied to me that he disagrees with me. He left the names out and he believes that makes them anonymous. I replied that the people at the grocery store or bank won't know who he is, but the kids at Buddy Taylor will and do. I stated that he doesn't need to agree with me for this to be a fact, and that regardless of how he feels about his words, they have consequences. They impact people. To single two children out and blast their scholastic abilities is cruel. If he wanted to stress concerns on the school's teaching ability, he should have written a separate article using general stats and not judge two kids publicly. He made his comments regardless of how it would impact them and regardless of any learning disabilities or struggles they may have. He didn't care. He saw an opportunity to use them to attack, and he did. That is shameful. He continued to push back throughout our conversation, so I knew my reality wasn't impacting him in the least. While he removed the statement, his heart had not budged. I stated that my child had a lot of support and will be fine, but if he ever feels the need to attack or single out children again, I urge him to consider that the younger population has an increased bullying issue and alarming suicide rates, and to think twice before adding the challenges that they already face. As a journalist, he should already know this. This next child may be in a more vulnerable state or not have support at all.
Are you done? Sorry.
Yeah,
We have middle schoolers, and I know you do too, and the amount of anguish that this could cause a child is unbelievable. This is the kind of stuff that pushes the child to suicide. This is messed up, and we have to use our judgment here when we release things. These kids know when they're talking about their friends. They're not dumb.
No, but I agree with you. I mean, there's fine lines. We have to follow the law. That's one thing we know we do. And if we don't, that also comes back and bite the district. So we're kind of navigating that in a very precise
What exactly
manner.
is going to happen if you didn't release that?
I don't know, but it depends who wants to press it.
Nothing.
It's the same thing. And I'll tell you something else. If you've been in the middle school, you understand how middle school works. By the end of that day, every student in Buddy Taylor Middle School knew who the kids were. By the end of the day, you know, and this is weeks after that brought it back, which made it probably worse, is what the mothers said. So, you know, I mean, it's sad that it happened, but it's also, it wasn't released out of anger that we were just going to put it out there. It was released because it was part of a public records request. Maybe our arguments with public records and Florida and how it does public records. Because if it's telling us to do these things and we do them, you know, and the names were redacted, nobody knew who they were. Yeah, they knew who they were because they knew back when it happened who they were, you know. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe we need more restraints through legislation that shouldn't be in part of public records at any point, for anything.
But we do have discretion to make that call on that redaction. And when it comes to, I will always side on the effort to protect our kids. And you know what? If it comes to that, they can challenge it, right? If they really think it's that, if they think we're really that wrong, but I don't think this was not. I think we had a pretty good reasoning behind us to say, hey, this is minors, these are children's statements, right? I think that if we made that case for redacting it, I don't think there would have been a lot of pushback on that. I don't think somebody would have gone and found an attorney to sue us to release these kids' statements.
It may have happened because it was involved in an employee discipline case. That employee has rights too, and that's where it crosses the line.
Mr. Furry, unfortunately, the statements were directly related to the matter being investigated. And that is very unfortunate. And it's very unfortunate also that this had a 2-month delay from when the incident happened, that a lot of time had passed. But again, it goes back to the rights of the employee. And so the investigation takes place, the investigation is completed, the employee's brought in. If there's a reprimand being issued, it gets issued. There's time before the matter is closed. And so the due process rights of an employee also have to be complied with. And so this matter, until it was closed, could not be released to anyone. And it was not released to anyone until the matter was closed. But the content of those student statements was directly related and 100% relevant to the investigation into what took place on that day that placed the safety, health, and well-being of the students in jeopardy.
Okay, how did this get out in the first place? Did a teacher go to the press? Did a parent go to the press? That's the question here.
I don't know, it was the Facebook, I guess it's parents.
Well,
I saw it on Facebook that it happened. I did not read the article, so I'm a little behind here, which I will read now. But the point is, that's how it got out. A parents or kids, yeah, kids, that's how it all gets out, social media.
What rights of the employee would have been violated had you redacted those children's statements? I don't understand. You just said that the employee had rights. How does redacting that public statement, the investigation was concluded and there was findings, right? How does that violate the employee's rights by redacting the statements?
What I was referring to was the length of time. The parent was saying when it initially happened, the student had pushback because everybody knew it was those students involved. So they already had pushback. And now 2 months later, they had pushback again because the article was written. And what I was referring to was the statement that the employee has rights, that we have to follow the due process in order to make sure that the investigation is conducted, thoroughly conducted, the employee is brought in, the investigation is completed, the employee gets to tell their information of what they deem to be relevant at that time. That is all taken into consideration. Decisions and determinations are made. If it goes to the committee for the standards committee, if it goes to that committee for review and determination of what action is to take place, that has to happen. Well, then
I think that was the least of the concerns of the parent. But where the focus was on the statements being released, and
the statements
we
were
do have that discretion to redact that, and I think that we should have, and we need to lean on the side. And you know what? If we're wrong, let them challenge it. We're going to protect the kids. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to. This is not. I don't accept the fact just because this was an employee file. Had this been a part of a different type of investigation, these things would not have been released. That's not acceptable. So we need to redact these things, and we need to protect these children, right? And let it challenge, because I believe that we do have the right to redact, right? And so we will get further legal counsel on this too, because this is a serious matter to me. What happened to this boy cannot happen again. And number one, how are we going to get? I think at this point, what student's going to want to participate in our investigations in the future if this is what's going to happen? Right. So I mean, this is a bigger problem. If we want people to be forthcoming and be part and help, otherwise they may be a victim and they won't come forward because they're gonna say, no, then everybody in the community is gonna know about it because it was an employee investigation. I mean, this boy is a victim. He got bit by the rat. I mean, give me a break. And then now all of a sudden he's already had to go to the hospital. He's had all these injuries, and then now he has to live this out again. This cannot happen.
And I'm going to emphasize once again, who is leaking this stuff in the first place? Like the Donnell Evanson letter that was posted before 9 a.m. when the email went out at midnight. I'm tired of this crap. Like, I am.
I'm telling you, having a person in high school right now, a student in high school, things happen in high school that are on social media before they even come home. I'm telling you, as a fact. This is a social media issue. And it's not necessarily the kid tells the parent posts it up, the kid posts it up.
We can't blame social media on everything.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
This is where it's happening. This is where a lot of that information is coming from. It's amazing. You know, I don't even use social media. My sister comes tells me, you can't believe what just happened, so-and-so. I'm like, wow. That's how I found out about the rat bite. Because I didn't read the article.
I will let you know that the original, from my understanding, the original leak came from a Facebook post in one of your parents' Facebook pages.
Well, Flagler parents.
And
Flagler
so
parents.
it's unfortunate that it took place, but media outlets have requested the information. And if you will recall, at the time when it took place, Mr. Wheeler was responding to multiple media outlets, and we stated it was a matter that was currently under investigation and no information could be provided. That was the statement that was held. Once the investigation is concluded on an employee-related matter, the employee file, unless there is something that I can protect of the employee, it is the employee's file, it's not the student's record. And I am sorry.
So for clarification of what you want further guidance on, your question is for this specific request, could the statements be redacted and the summary be provided only? Just the summary of the findings of it be provided, and redaction of the actual statements because they are statements of students.
Right.
So you're asking whether the summary, because the summary is what was provided.
He's asking if the
But
findings.
within the summary of findings, you're wanting the statements to have been redacted.
Right, because there clearly were things in here that identified that student. I mean, it could be identified, right? And there are other state statutes that say that kind of thing is not acceptable. And you cannot reveal things in there that it says to the school they go to their home address, their cell phone. And so I'm not going to accept that there is an exception just because of this matter. It may be a legal defense, but I do not believe that we are not within our right to redact information on this when we're citing on protecting students' information. I think that is even a better defense. And it is my view that going forward that we should have some sort of a statement that parents sign that they acknowledge that if they give a statement that it could be part of public record.
And I'm not sure it's not, we have to have the code of conduct really looked at too. It could be in there. I don't know.
Well,
It's a
somewhere.
verbal. It's a verbal. It's not a. It's not. Yeah.
verbal?
It is not a.
It needs to be somewhere, and that would solve that issue.
And one of the issues when you say there has to be something in writing, remember there are investigations taking place, and when Mr. Willett was referring to parents are called and notified. Parents are called and notified if it's a criminal matter, and if we have a SRD in the room that's going to be conducting that investigation, we don't want to impede that investigation. So phone calls are made. Do you have an issue with the SRD while the administrator is present of your child being questioned? That is asked, and it is documented that the parent was called, that the parent was in agreement to that statement being taken, because you don't want to allow time, especially when it's a criminal matter.
I think you're missing the point. Okay, so the parent didn't deny that she did not participate in this and that she gave authorization for her child to do that. It is the matter of fact that when they give a statement that they know that eventually this could become part of public record.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, you're saying you want it to be provided back in writing that they understand that. And what I'm asking is what happens if that doesn't come back? Do we not use that statement? I guess that's the question.
Or, what is the verification process? Having someone there that can witness that this statement, the same statement that is already the same statement that is used, that statement also includes this information, and there's a witness there that will confirm that we spoke to the parent and this is what the parent did acknowledge.
That would be acceptable. I want just a clear, that
Absolutely.
this parent was clearly notified that this is the potential outcome if you give a statement
Understood.
in this investigation.
Yeah. Understood.
Whatever form it comes in.
I think that is
Understood.
Okay. All right, we'll get some closure on that, work on that.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any other old business?
I have new business.
Okay. New business. New business.
Okay,
Go ahead.
switch gears here. So, I mean, I think as a public school, like, we do have the best resources to offer children, but unfortunately, public school is not for everybody. It's not one size fits all, and I would like to start to look into micro schools, maybe schools within schools, something along that nature. And a cost-effective way I thought about doing this would be a hybrid of iFlagler, where students could meet maybe twice a week in like a cohort or something, if we have that space available, and just so that they're getting some socialization in a small group setting. And another thing could be, and I don't know how we would do this, but even some of the smaller private schools, I don't know if there's a way to collaborate with them. I'm just putting it out there. Resources that we can get them, helping them to get accreditation, whatever they may need. Just something I was thinking about.
And I think that's the future of education, really.
We need to be competitive.
Because we need alternatives.
Yeah.
Whether it's whatever and that's where we were years and years ago. They tried that, but I think it's really become dominant now because of our technology concepts. So
And
we have to look at different things.
There's a lot of information going out around micro schools and smaller learning environments, or pods, sometimes they're called. And I personally and professionally feel that if we don't begin to just change what our options are that we provide to families, that more and more families will choose something else. And so you're wanting us to gather information around micro schools or some type of smaller learning environments that we can create.
Where could we start with that in a cost-effective way? Maybe like a trial of some kind.
Yeah, and sometimes when you see micro schools, you see them a lot in those primary grades, which I do believe that a lot of primary families are looking for smaller environments. Other options that we can look at, and we can bring more information to you, but looking at some of our classroom to career options and how we can turn those environments into some type of micro school or smaller learning environment, which we've done as well. So similar to what we do with our ACE and our IB, they do become these smaller schools within a school, but how do we do that for other
general population?
Yes.
Yes, those are things to do.
I want to just thank you, Ms. Sharp, for bringing that forward. I'm all for any type of innovation that we can start looking at the way we've been doing things and saying, hey, what are some new ideas, new learning environments, new buildings, whatever it is that we're going to be changing. I think it's clear that the state legislature, they want innovation. They either want charter schools, or they want vouchers so parents can choose. So let's start creating things that parents want to choose Flagler schools for these things, right? and we're a small town still, still that there really aren't a lot of alternative options like some larger cities, right? So let us be the first ones that do that innovation. So let's start with that one.
And that's my thoughts. We don't want to lose students,
Right.
you know.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's where we need to go. We have to do that.
And I'm glad that you worded it that way, is that, we are a choice that parents choose. And so how do we continue to provide environments that they want to continue to choose to send their children to? And I completely agree. We have to look at what are other options that we can offer outside of just traditional school that we've provided, for centuries. Yes, so when we think about the calendar of time, we will likely not bring this topic back towards for you guys until probably around January. We do have conversations around our alternative schools that you did ask for as a board, so we'll be bringing that information back to you as well. So this topic won't come back.
Take like a year or something.
This topic won't come back together until probably January.
Okay. Anything else? New business? New business? Is that all, Ms. Chong?
Yeah.
Okay, I have no new business. Public comment. Do we have any public comment?
No additional public comment, ma'am.
No additional public comment. Closing comments? Anybody?
No, just thank you all for giving me the time today to share that, and I'm glad we're making some changes going forward out of that. So, and just.
Ms. Chong?
Just happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yep, happy Thanksgiving. We won't be back again until after Thanksgiving. So yes, it's a great time to share family and friends and eat, football, all good things.
Can I just add? I usually don't do.
What school day is it?
Yes, I usually don't do public closing comments here at our workshops, but today is the 61st
There you go.
day of school, and yesterday I enjoyed seeing all of the pictures of our faculty and staff and our students as we celebrate each decade leading up to the 100th day of school. And so, for a treat, the 70th day of school happens to fall on November 28th, which is a school board meeting. So be prepared for all the festivities as we go into the 70th day of school. We've had a lot of things to overcome this year, but there is still a lot of great things that are happening in our schools each and every day. Tomorrow we will be hosting Apple, the company. They will be here and looking at the great things that are happening in our schools, as well as having individuals that will join them for tours of our schools from all over the world, all over the country, that are going to be coming here to Flagler schools to see the great things that are happening in our schools. And then on Thursday, we will be hosting another tour with our chamber, and we will be bringing business members and community members through our schools so that they can see the great things that are happening. So happy 61st day of school. The next time we come together, it will be the 70th day of school, and we are excited to celebrate each day, but definitely as we lead up to the 100th day of school.
Okay, break out the bell bottom.
Absolutely.
Okay, break out the bell bottom.
Join us in dressing up.
There you go for the 70th day of school.
70th
With
day of
that being
school.
said, everybody have a great night. Safe trip home. This meeting's adjourned.